Good morning, everyone. Today we are going to discuss one of the most important areas of management, that is, human resource management, or HRM. Before we understand HRM, let us imagine a simple situation. Imagine that tomorrow you start your own company. You have money. You have a beautiful office. You have computers. You have modern technology. You have a great business idea. Everything is ready. But there is one problem. You don't have employees. Now think about what happens. Who operates the machines? Who develops the product? Who speaks to customers? Who manages finance? Who handles marketing? Who solves problems? Who makes decisions? The answer is people. This is why human resources are extremely important to every organization. Machines can perform tasks. Technology can automate processes. Capital can provide financial resources. But people bring knowledge, skills, creativity, innovation, experience, and decision-making ability. Therefore, employees are not simply another resource. They are a strategic resource of an organization. Now this brings us to the concept of human resource management. Human resource management is the process of planning, recruiting, selecting, developing, motivating, compensating, and retaining employees so that organizational objectives are achieved while employee welfare is also promoted. In simple words, HRM means managing people effectively in an organization. But remember one important point. HRM is not simply recruitment. Recruitment is only one part of HRM. HRM covers the complete journey of an employee inside an organization. An employee enters an organization. The organization develops that employee. The employee performs the job. The organization evaluates performance. The organization provides compensation and welfare. The employee develops a career. The employee may receive promotion or transfer. And eventually, the employment relationship may come to an end. Therefore, HRM manages the employee lifecycle. Human resources are essential to every organization at every level. Human resource management focuses on recruiting, developing, and retaining employees across all roles. HRM aligns people's strategies with business goals to create value and sustainable advantage. It balances organizational needs with employee welfare and performance through policies and practices. Machines can perform tasks, technology can automate processes, but they need people to design and manage them. People bring creativity, judgment, and adaptability that machines cannot replace, and they drive innovation. Therefore, investing in HRM strengthens competitiveness, long-term success, and supports organizational resilience. Now, let us understand why organizations need HRM. Imagine an organization with 500 employees. Managing 500 people is not simply about paying salaries. The organization has to determine how many employees it requires. It has to identify what skills are required. It has to recruit suitable people. It has to select the right candidates. It has to place employees in suitable jobs. It has to introduce new employees to the organization. It has to train them. It has to evaluate their performance. It has to provide compensation. It has to maintain employee welfare. It has to manage employee relations. It has to provide career opportunities. It has to maintain health and safety. It has to manage talent. It has to maintain HR information. And it has to connect human resources with organizational strategy. So the scope of HRM is very wide. The major areas include manpower planning, recruitment and selection, training and development, performance management, compensation, employee welfare, industrial relations, career planning, health and safety, human resource information systems, talent management, diversity and inclusion, and strategic human resource management. Therefore, when somebody says HR means recruitment, that is an incomplete understanding. Recruitment is only one door into HRM. HRM begins before recruitment and continues long after recruitment. A simple way to remember the scope is, HR does not simply hire humans. HR manages the human journey. Now we move to the functions of human resource management. The functions of HRM are broadly divided into two categories. First, managerial functions. Second, operative functions. The managerial functions are planning, organizing, directing, and controlling. Planning means deciding in advance what needs to be done. In HRM, planning involves questions such as, how many employees will we need? What type of employees will we need? What skills will they require? When will we need them? Where will we need them? So HR planning is about preparing for future human resource requirements. Organizing. Once HR requirements are identified, the organization has to organize its human resources activities. Who will handle recruitment? Who will conduct training? Who will maintain employee records? Who will manage compensation? Who will handle employee relations? This arrangement of activities and responsibilities comes under organizing. Directing means guiding employees toward organizational objectives. Employees need leadership. They need communication. They need motivation. They need guidance. Managers therefore direct employees so that individual efforts move toward organizational goals. Finally, we have controlling. Controlling means checking whether HR activities and employee performance are moving according to predetermined standards. Are employees achieving their targets? Are HR policies being followed? Are organizational objectives being achieved? If there is a deviation, corrective action may be required. So remember the 4 managerial functions: planning, organizing, directing, controlling. Now let us move to operative functions. The easiest way to understand operative functions is to imagine the journey of an employee. The journey begins with HR planning, then recruitment, then selection, then placement, then induction, then training, then performance appraisal, then compensation, then welfare, then career development, then promotion or transfer, and finally, separation. Let us understand each one. HR planning first. The organization determines its human resource requirements. How many employees are required? What qualifications are required? What skills are required? That is HR planning. Next comes recruitment. Recruitment means attracting qualified candidates to apply for jobs in the organization. Next comes selection. After candidates are attracted, the organization has to choose the most suitable candidate. That is selection. Next comes placement. Once a candidate is selected, the employee has to be assigned to an appropriate position. That is placement. Next comes induction. After joining, the employee needs to understand the organization. The employee needs to become familiar with the organization, its policies, people, culture, and working environment. That process is induction. Now let's see training. Employees may need new knowledge and skills to perform their present jobs effectively. That is training. Next comes performance appraisal. After employees have been working for some time, the organization needs to evaluate how they are performing. That is performance appraisal. Let's see compensation. Employees contribute their time, effort, knowledge, and skills. In return, they receive compensation. Compensation includes the rewards provided to employees for their work. Next, welfare. HR also focuses on employee welfare. Employees need a safe, healthy, and supportive working environment. Next comes career development. Employees do not want to remain in the same position forever. They may want to develop new skills, take greater responsibilities, and progress in their careers. Therefore, career development is another important HR function. Next comes promotion and transfer. Employees may move to higher positions through promotion. They may also move from one position or location to another through transfer. Now, separation. Finally, employment may come to an end. This may happen for different reasons. The management of this stage is known as separation, so the complete employee journey is plan, recruit, select, place, induct, train, appraise, compensate, provide welfare, develop careers, promote or transfer, and finally separate. Now we come to one of the most important concepts in HRM, that is, manpower planning. Imagine that a company is going to expand its business. It is opening new branches. It is introducing new products. It is entering new markets. Obviously, the organization will need more employees. But how does it know exactly how many people it needs? This is where manpower planning becomes important. Manpower planning is concerned with forecasting future manpower requirements and ensuring the availability of qualified employees. In simple words, manpower planning means having the right person, in the right number, with the right skill, in the right job, at the right time. Think about a hospital opening a new cardiac care unit. The hospital cannot simply open the unit and then start thinking about employees. It needs doctors. It needs nurses. It needs technicians. It needs pharmacists. It needs administrative employees. It needs people with appropriate qualifications and skills. Therefore, manpower planning attempts to match future organizational requirements with available human resources. Now there can be different situations. Suppose an organization requires 100 employees but has only 70. There is a manpower shortage. On the other hand, suppose the organization requires 100 employees but has 150. There is a manpower surplus. Another problem can occur when the organization has the required number of employees but the employees do not possess the required skills. That is a skill mismatch. Therefore, manpower planning helps organizations deal with manpower shortages, manpower surpluses, and skill mismatches. The basic objective is simple: right person, right number, right skill, right job, right time. Once manpower requirements are identified, the organization needs to find people. This brings us to recruitment. Recruitment means creating a pool of qualified applicants for available positions. Think of recruitment as opening the door. The organization communicates that jobs are available and attracts people who may be suitable for those jobs. For example, suppose KK Academy announces that it requires 10 faculty members. Hundreds of people may apply. At this stage, the organization has created an applicant pool. That is recruitment. But the organization cannot appoint everyone. Therefore, the next stage is selection. Selection means choosing the most suitable candidate from the pool of applicants. So there is a very important difference. Recruitment means attract. Selection means choose. Recruitment increases the number of potential candidates. Selection reduces the pool by identifying suitable candidates and eliminating unsuitable candidates. This is why recruitment is generally described as a positive process, because it encourages and attracts applicants. Selection is generally described as a negative process, because unsuitable candidates are eliminated during the process. Now let us understand how selection can take place. A typical selection process can include several stages. First, application screening. The organization examines applications and identifies candidates who appear to meet the basic requirements. Next may come a written test. The organization may test knowledge, aptitude, reasoning, technical ability, or other relevant competencies. After that, candidates may undergo interviews. There may be a technical interview to examine job-related knowledge and skills. There may also be an HR interview to understand aspects such as communication, attitude, suitability, and other characteristics relevant to the organization. Depending on the nature of the job, a medical examination may also be conducted. Finally, the organization makes the selection decision. So the process can be represented as application screening, written test, technical interview, HR interview, medical examination, final selection. The exact process may differ depending on the organization and the nature of the job, but the basic purpose remains the same: to identify the most suitable candidate. Now an important question is, where does an organization find candidates? There are two broad sources: internal sources, external sources. Internal sources. Internal recruitment means filling vacancies using people who are already connected with the organization. For example, promotion, transfer, employee referrals. Suppose an organization already has an employee who is performing extremely well. Instead of searching outside the organization, the company may promote that employee to a higher position. That is an internal source. External sources. External recruitment means looking outside the existing organization for candidates. Examples include job portals, campus recruitment, employment agencies, social media. External recruitment gives organizations access to a wider pool of potential candidates. So remember, internal sources use existing organizational resources. External sources search outside the organization. Now imagine that employees have joined the organization. They have been trained. They have been working for 6 months or 1 year. Now management needs to know, how well are these employees performing? This brings us to performance appraisal. Performance appraisal is the systematic evaluation of employee performance against predetermined standards. In simple terms, performance appraisal means assessing how effectively an employee is performing the job. Performance appraisal can support several HR decisions. It can help in promotion decisions, compensation decisions, training and development, identifying performance gaps, career development, and other employee-related decisions. Consider a salesperson. Suppose the sales target is 10 lakh rupees. The employee achieves 12 lakh rupees. That tells us something about sales performance. But performance appraisal may not necessarily be limited to one number. Depending on the job, other factors may also matter. Customer complaints, teamwork, attendance, communication, quality of work, innovation, leadership, problem solving. Therefore, performance appraisal can consider different dimensions of performance depending on the nature of the job. Let's see methods of performance appraisal. Now, we have understood what performance appraisal means, but there is an important question. How does an organization actually evaluate an employee? Because you cannot simply call an employee and say, "I think you are a good employee." That is not a proper appraisal. Organizations need some systematic methods to evaluate employee performance. Over the years, different methods have been developed. Broadly, we can divide them into two categories: traditional methods of performance appraisal and modern methods of performance appraisal. Let's understand each one with simple examples. Traditional methods of performance appraisal. These methods are the older approaches to evaluating employee performance. They mainly focus on the employee's past performance, usually based on the judgment of the immediate supervisor or manager. The major traditional methods are ranking method, paired comparison method, grading method, force distribution method, rating scale method, essay method, checklist method. Let's take them one by one. Let's start with one of the simplest methods. That is, ranking method. The basic idea is very simple. Suppose you have 5 students in a classroom. After looking at their performance, you say, Rahul is first, Priya is second, Anil is third, Sneha is fourth, Karan is fifth. What did we just do? We ranked them. The same principle can be used in an organization. Suppose a sales manager has 10 sales employees. The manager evaluates their overall performance and ranks them from rank 1, which is considered as the highest rank, and rank 10th, which is lowest rank. So, the ranking method is a method in which employees are arranged from highest performing to lowest performing employee based on overall performance. Example: imagine that a company has 4 employees: Ravi, Priya, Anil, and Sneha. After evaluating their performance, the manager decides Ravi is in rank 1, Priya is in rank 2, Sneha is in rank 3, Anil is in rank 4. Here, Ravi is considered the best performer among the 4. Why do organizations use it? Because it is very simple. The manager doesn't have to prepare a complicated appraisal system. The manager simply compares employees and establishes an order. Advantages are: the biggest advantage is simplicity. It is easy to understand. It is inexpensive. It does not require complicated forms or software. It can be useful when the organization has a small number of employees. Limitations are: ranking tells us who is better, but it doesn't necessarily tell us why. For example, suppose Ravi is ranked first and Anil is ranked fourth. Why? Is Ravi better because he sells more? Is he better at teamwork? Is his attendance better? Is he better at communication? The ranking doesn't clearly tell us. Another problem is that employees may have different responsibilities. Comparing 2 employees who perform completely different jobs may not always be fair. So, although ranking is simple, it can be subjective. Now let's go with the second traditional method, that is, paired comparison method. Let's make comparison more systematic. This is called the paired comparison method. Here, instead of ranking everyone at once, we compare employees 2 at a time. Suppose we have 4 employees, A, B, C, and D. We compare A with B first, then A with C, and finally A with D. Later we compare B with C, then B with D, and finally C with D. In every pair, the evaluator decides who is the better performer. The employee who is considered better receives a point. At the end, we count the points. The employee with the highest number of points is considered the best performer. Let's understand with a simple situation. Suppose we have Ravi, Priya, Anil, and Sneha. First, we compare Ravi with Priya. The manager thinks Ravi is better, so Ravi gets 1 point. Then Ravi is compared with Anil. Again, Ravi performs better. Ravi gets another point. Then Ravi is compared with Sneha. Suppose Sneha performs better. Sneha gets 1 point. The process continues until every employee has been compared with every other employee. Finally, the scores are counted and employees are ranked. Why is this different from simple ranking? In simple ranking, the manager directly creates an order. In paired comparison, the manager makes individual comparisons between employees. This can make the comparison more systematic. Advantages are, it is relatively simple. It provides a structured way of comparing employees. It can be useful when the number of employees is small. Limitations are, the major problem is that it becomes extremely difficult when the number of employees increases. Imagine you have 5 employees. That's manageable. But imagine you have 100 employees. Now you would have to make a huge number of comparisons. So, the method becomes time-consuming. Now let's see third traditional method, that is, grading method. Here, employees are placed into predefined categories or grades. For example, an organization may have A means outstanding, B means very good, C means good, D means average, E means poor. The manager evaluates an employee and places them into one of these grades. Example, suppose Priya consistently exceeds her targets. She performs her work accurately. She works well with her colleagues. She rarely misses deadlines. The manager may place her in Grade A, which means outstanding. Another employee may meet normal expectations but not exceed them. That employee may receive Grade C, which means good. Think about your examination system. You might receive A grade, B grade, C grade, D grade. The same basic concept can be applied to employee performance. Advantages are, it is easy to understand. Employees can easily understand what their grade represents. It is relatively simple for managers to implement. Limitations are, the problem is that the boundaries between grades may not always be clear. For example, what exactly makes an employee very good instead of good? Different managers may interpret the categories differently. One manager may give A very easily. Another manager may be very strict. Therefore, subjectivity can become a problem. Now let's see fourth traditional method, that is, forced distribution method. We come to a more interesting method. The word forced is important here. Why? Because the organization forces the manager to distribute employees into predetermined performance categories. For example, the company may say, 10% of employees should be outstanding, 20% should be very good, 40% should be average, 20% should be below average, 10% should be poor. Now imagine you have 100 employees. The organization expects approximately 10 employees to be outstanding, 20 employees to be very good, 40 employees to be average, 20 employees to be below average, 10 employees to be poor. The manager has to follow this distribution. Why was this method introduced? Sometimes managers have a tendency to give very high ratings to everyone. Imagine a manager has 10 employees. The manager likes all of them and gives everyone excellent. Now the appraisal system doesn't really differentiate performance. Forced distribution attempts to solve this problem by making managers distinguish between levels of performance. Example, suppose 5 employees are working in a department. Even if 4 employees are performing reasonably well, the system may require the manager to identify the strongest and weakest performers. Advantages are, it reduces the tendency to rate everyone similarly. It helps differentiate high performers from low performers. It can make appraisal more competitive. Limitations are, however, this method has received criticism. Imagine you have 10 employees and all 10 are actually performing very well. Should the organization still force some of them into a low performance category? That can be unfair. It can also create unhealthy competition. Employees may start competing against each other rather than working together. Therefore, forced distribution can sometimes negatively affect teamwork and employee morale. Now let's see fifth traditional method, that is, rating scale method. This method evaluates employees against specific performance factors. For example, job knowledge, quality of work, quantity of work, communication, teamwork, leadership, attendance, reliability. The manager gives a rating for each factor. For example, 1 means poor, 2 means below average, 3 means average, 4 means good, 5 means excellent. Example, suppose Ravi is being evaluated. The manager may give him job knowledge as 5, quality of work as 4, communication as 3, teamwork as 4, attendance as 5. Now we can see Ravi's performance across different areas. His job knowledge is excellent. His attendance is excellent. His teamwork is good, but his communication needs improvement. This gives us more information than simply saying, Ravi is rank 2. Advantages are, it is easy to use. It allows organizations to evaluate multiple performance factors. It is easy to compare employees. It can be used for a large number of employees. Limitations are, the biggest problem is rating bias. Suppose a manager likes a particular employee. Without realizing it, the manager may give that employee higher ratings. Another problem is central tendency. Some managers may avoid giving very high or very low ratings and simply give everyone an average score. There can also be a halo effect. Suppose an employee is excellent in one area. The manager may allow that one positive quality to influence ratings in other areas. Now let's see the final traditional method, that is, checklist method. Here, the organization prepares a list of statements related to employee performance. The manager simply indicates whether each statement applies to the employee. For example, completes work on time. Yes. Maintains good attendance. Yes. Cooperates with colleagues. Yes. Follows organizational procedures. Yes. Requires frequent supervision. No. The organization then uses these responses to evaluate performance. Advantages are: it is simple, it is easy to administer, it provides a standardized evaluation, managers don't need to write long reports. Limitations are: the biggest problem is that a checklist can be too rigid. Human performance is complicated. A simple yes or no may not explain the full situation. For example, suppose an employee sometimes misses deadlines. A checklist might simply say, completes work on time? No. But why? Maybe the employee was given unrealistic deadlines. Maybe there was a shortage of resources. Maybe another department delayed the work. The checklist doesn't necessarily capture such context. Now, let's see one more final method of traditional performance appraisal. That is, essay method. Now let's move to the essay method. This method is completely different from a simple numerical rating. Here, the manager writes a detailed descriptive report about the employee. The manager may describe the employee's strengths, weaknesses, achievements, job knowledge, communication, leadership, teamwork, areas requiring improvement, future potential. Example, instead of giving Ravi a rating of 4 out of 5, the manager might write, Ravi consistently completes his assignments on time. He has strong technical knowledge and works effectively with his team. He demonstrates good problem-solving skills and maintains positive relationships with customers. However, he needs to improve his presentation skills and should take more initiative in leading team activities. This provides much richer information. Advantages are, it provides detailed information. It explains why the employee received a particular evaluation. It can identify strengths and development areas. Limitations are, writing detailed reports takes time. The quality of the appraisal depends heavily on the manager's ability to observe and describe performance. Two managers may write very different reports about employees with similar performance. Therefore, subjectivity remains a concern. Now, let's go through modern methods of performance appraisal. Modern methods developed because organizations realized that traditional methods were not always enough. Organizations started asking, can we evaluate employees based on goals? Can we collect feedback from multiple people? Can we evaluate behavior? Can we identify future potential? Can we connect employee performance with organizational performance? These questions led to modern appraisal methods. The major modern methods include management by objectives, 360-degree feedback, assessment center, behaviorally anchored rating scale, human resource accounting, psychological appraisal, balanced scorecard. Let's understand each one carefully. Number 1. Management by objectives, or in short we can call it as MBO. MBO stands for Management by Objectives. This method focuses on goals and results. Instead of asking only, is this employee good? We ask, what objectives were given to this employee, and to what extent were those objectives achieved? The manager and employee generally participate in setting objectives. Example, suppose you are a sales executive. Your organization sets a target. Achieve 50 lakh rupees in sales during the financial year. That becomes one of your objectives. During the year, your manager monitors your progress. At the end of the year, your actual results are compared with your objective. Suppose you achieved 55 lakh rupees. You exceeded the objective. Suppose you achieved 50 lakh rupees. You achieved the objective. Suppose you achieved only 30 lakh rupees. The manager needs to investigate why. Maybe your performance was poor, but maybe there were external factors. Perhaps the market collapsed. Perhaps the company didn't provide enough products. Perhaps there was intense competition. So MBO should not simply look at the final number. It should also consider the circumstances surrounding the result. Basic MBO process first. Objectives are established. Then performance is monitored. Then the results are reviewed. Finally, feedback is provided and new objectives may be established. Advantages are, MBO makes employees more goal-oriented. It creates clarity. Employees know what they are expected to achieve. It can improve participation because employees are often involved in setting their objectives. Limitations are, not every job can be measured through numerical objectives. For example, how do you measure the performance of a teacher only through numbers? How do you measure the performance of an HR counselor? How do you measure creativity? Therefore, MBO should be used carefully. Now, let's see second modern method, that is, 360-degree feedback. Now, we come to one of the most popular modern appraisal methods, 360-degree feedback. Let's understand the name first. Why 360 degrees? Because feedback comes from different directions. Traditionally, the manager evaluates the employee, so the employee gets feedback from one direction. But in 360-degree feedback, information may come from the manager, colleagues, subordinates, customers, and the employee themselves. So we get a much broader picture. Example, suppose Ravi is a team leader. His manager may say, Ravi has strong technical knowledge. His team members may say, Ravi is technically strong, but he sometimes doesn't listen to our suggestions. His customers may say, Ravi handles customer problems very well. Ravi himself may say, I need to improve my communication skills. Now Ravi receives information from different perspectives. This is much more useful for development. Advantages are, it provides multiple perspectives. It can identify blind spots. An employee may think, I am an excellent communicator, but colleagues may feel, he needs to listen more. That difference itself becomes valuable feedback. Limitations are, the process can be complicated. It may be expensive. There may be concerns about confidentiality. And feedback may sometimes be influenced by personal relationships. Therefore, organizations need a well-designed 360-degree feedback system. Now, let's go through third modern method, assessment center method. Now imagine that a company wants to identify employees who have the potential to become future managers. Instead of simply looking at their current appraisal scores, the company can put them through an assessment center. An assessment center is not necessarily a physical building. It is primarily a method of assessment using multiple exercises and techniques. Employees may be asked to participate in group discussions, role plays, presentations, case studies, business simulations, problem-solving exercises, interviews, in-basket exercises. Example, suppose 10 employees are being considered for a future managerial position. The company gives them a business problem. They are divided into groups. The evaluators observe who takes initiative, who communicates clearly, who listens, who manages disagreement, who solves problems, who demonstrates leadership. The organization is not simply asking, are you a good leader? It is actually observing you behaving in a situation that requires leadership. Advantages are, it provides direct observation. It can identify leadership potential. It is useful for promotion and succession planning. Limitations are, it can be expensive. It requires trained assessors. It takes time to design and conduct the exercises. Let's learn the fourth appraisal method, that is, BARS. Now let's look at an important modern method called BARS. BARS stands for Behaviorally Anchored Rating Scales. The name sounds complicated, but the concept is actually quite simple. Traditional rating scales may say, communication, 1 means poor, 2 means below average, 3 means average, 4 means good, 5 means excellent. But what exactly is excellent communication? Different managers may have different interpretations. BARS solves this problem by connecting each rating with specific observable behaviors. Example, suppose we are evaluating customer service. A rating of 1 might be described as, the employee frequently ignores customer concerns and responds in an inappropriate manner. A rating of 3 might mean, the employee responds to customers adequately but may need occasional assistance. A rating of 5 might mean, the employee listens carefully, understands customer needs, resolves problems effectively, and maintains professionalism. Now the manager is not simply thinking, I think Ravi deserves 5. The manager can look at Ravi's actual behavior. Advantages are, it makes ratings more specific. It focuses on observable behavior. It can reduce ambiguity. Limitations are, developing bars is difficult. The organization has to identify appropriate behaviors for each job. That requires time, research, and expert involvement. Now, let's go through human resource accounting. Now we come to an interesting concept: human resource accounting. Traditionally, accounting systems focus on physical and financial resources. For example, buildings, machines, equipment, cash, inventory. But think about a company like a technology company. What is one of its most valuable resources? Its people, the knowledge of its employees, their technical skills, their creativity, their experience, their ability to innovate. Human resource accounting attempts to measure the economic value, investment, or cost associated with human resources. Example: suppose a company recruits an employee. The company spends money on recruitment, training, development, orientation, skill enhancement. The employee then contributes value to the organization. Human resource accounting attempts to provide a financial perspective on this investment in people. Why is it useful? It reminds management that employees are not simply an expense. They can also represent a significant organizational investment. Limitation are, human beings are very difficult to measure in financial terms. A machine has a purchase price, but how much is an employee's creativity worth? How much is leadership worth? How much is experience worth? These things are difficult to calculate precisely. Now, let's see another modern method, that is, psychological appraisal. Now let's think about traditional performance appraisal again. Traditional appraisal mainly asks, how did the employee perform? Psychological appraisal asks another question, what is the employee capable of doing in the future? This is a very important difference. An employee may currently be working as a junior executive, but perhaps that employee has strong leadership potential, problem-solving ability, emotional stability, decision-making skills, communication ability, motivation, interpersonal skills. The organization may want to identify whether this person can become a manager in the future. Psychological appraisal attempts to assess such characteristics and potential. Example: suppose 2 employees have similar current performance. Employee A is excellent at following instructions. Employee B demonstrates strong leadership, decision-making, and problem-solving ability. If the organization is planning future managers, Employee B may have greater leadership potential. Psychological appraisal can help identify such potential. Advantages are, it can support promotion decisions, career planning, leadership development, succession planning. Limitations are, psychological assessment needs to be conducted carefully. Improperly designed psychological tests can produce misleading results. Therefore, trained professionals and reliable assessment tools are important. Now last, but not least, balanced scorecard. Finally, let's discuss the balanced scorecard. This is a very important modern performance management approach. The key word here is balanced. Why do we need balance? Imagine a company says, our profit increased by 30%, so our performance is excellent. But at the same time, customers are unhappy. Employees are leaving. Product quality is falling. Innovation has stopped. Training has been reduced. Would we really say the company is performing perfectly? Probably not. That's why the balanced scorecard looks at performance from multiple perspectives. The classic balanced scorecard has 4 major perspectives. Let's see. Financial perspective. First, how are we performing financially? The organization may look at revenue, profit, cost reduction, return on investment, cash flow, financial growth. For example, did the organization increase its profit? This tells us about financial performance. But financial performance alone is not enough, so we move to the next perspective. Now, when we talk about customer perspective, the second question is, how do our customers see us? The organization may measure customer satisfaction, customer complaints, customer retention, customer loyalty, market share. For example, suppose a company increases profit but loses thousands of customers. That could be a warning sign. Therefore, customer performance is also important. If we see internal business process perspective, the third question is, how efficiently are our internal processes working? The organization may look at product quality, productivity, delivery time, process efficiency, error rates, innovation processes. For example, suppose a company has excellent sales but takes 30 days to deliver an order. Customers may eventually become unhappy. So the organization must improve its internal processes. And, when we see learning and growth perspective, finally, we ask, are our employees and organization developing for the future? This includes employee training, skill development, innovation, employee capabilities, leadership development, knowledge development, employee engagement. Why is this important? Because today's success does not guarantee tomorrow's success. An organization needs to continuously learn and develop. If employees stop learning, the organization may eventually stop growing. Let's go through overall final understanding. So, when we look at the entire evolution of performance appraisal, we can see an interesting change. The traditional methods mainly focused on ranking employees, comparing employees, giving grades, giving ratings, writing evaluations, checking predefined statements. But modern approaches try to go beyond that. They ask, what goals did the employee achieve? How does the employee behave? How do colleagues and customers perceive the employee? Does the employee have future potential? How much investment is the organization making in its people? And finally, how does employee performance contribute to overall organizational performance? So, remember this simple idea. Traditional appraisal mainly focuses on evaluating past performance. Modern appraisal increasingly focuses on goals, behavior, multiple perspectives, development, potential, and organizational results. And that is why modern organizations are gradually moving from simply appraising performance toward managing and developing performance. That's all for this course. Thank you so much for joining this learning journey.